the floor where they drop like bombs. Faceless voices running all the cons. Digital whispers in a binary night. No light, no face, pure sound, no sight. Stories unfold in the dark, unscrolled. Echoes of silence, secrets untold. Waves crash loud in this audio cave. No mic, no fame, just the sound we crave. Tune and turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just a vibe that's real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. In shadows, voices untamed. No need for spotlight, no claim to fame. Just a beat of life in a stream of thought. Every word a punchline, no need to be taught. Just listen close, no visuals needed. Raw conversation, unprocessed, unseated. Feel the pulse in every sentence said. No distractions, just thoughts in your head. Whispers of the streets, rumbling through. Faceless yet vivid, a world in view. No mic, just souls, connecting in flow. Pure and raw, let the rhythm go.
I began at once somewhat more steady work on the subjects and books which I should have to lecture on. I now first hit upon the diagrammatical device of representing propositions by inclusive and exclusive circles. Of course the device was not new then, but it was so obviously representative of the way in which anyone, who approached the subject from the mathematical side, would attempt to visualize propositions, that it was forced upon me almost at once. John Venn. John Venn (1834–1923) was a British mathematician and logician most famous for inventing Venn diagrams. These diagrams use overlapping shapes, usually circles, to visually represent the relationships between different sets of things. The overlapping areas show what the sets have in common, while the separate areas show what is unique to each set. John Venn was born on August 4, 1834, in Hull, Yorkshire, England, into a distinguished and deeply religious family. His mother, Martha Sykes, passed away when he was only about 3 years old, leaving him to be raised by his father, Reverend Henry Venn. Venn's family had a long and strong connection to the Anglican Church. Both his father and his grandfather, also named John Venn, were Anglican clergymen with significant influence. His grandfather was a key figure in the Clapham sect, a group of evangelical Christians known for their social reform efforts, including advocating for the abolition of slavery and prison reform. Reverend Henry Venn continued this tradition, becoming the honorary secretary of the Church Missionary Society for Africa and the East, a role that required him to move the family to Highgate near London when John was young. Growing up in this environment, it was naturally expected that John would follow the family path into the priesthood. His early education reflected this expectation. He first attended Sir Roger Calmley's school in Highgate, now Highgate School, and then a private Islington preparatory school. These formative years instilled in him a strong sense of discipline and a deep engagement with religious teachings. In October 1853, Venn entered Gonville and Caius College at the University of Cambridge. While his family background emphasized theology, Venn displayed a notable aptitude and interest in mathematics during his time at Cambridge. By his second year, he earned a mathematics scholarship. In 1857, he graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree, achieving the rank of 6th Wrangler in the mathematical tripos, signifying his high standing in mathematics among his graduating class. Following his graduation, Venn was elected a Fellow of Gonville and Caius College, a title he would hold for the rest of his life. Continuing the family tradition, he was ordained as a deacon in Ely in 1858 and then as a priest in 1859. For a brief period, he served as a curate in 2 different parishes. However, Venn's intellectual curiosity and growing interest in mathematics and logic led him back to Cambridge in 1862. He returned to his alma mater as a lecturer in moral sciences, a field that then encompassed logic, philosophy of science, and political economy. This marked a significant turning point in his career, shifting his focus from the clergy to academia, where he would make his most enduring contributions. John Venn's first major published work was The Logic of Chance, an essay on the foundations and province of the theory of probability, with a special reference to its logical bearings and its application to moral and social science, which appeared in 1866. In this book, Venn championed the frequency theory of probability. This view holds that the probability of an event is the limit of its relative frequency in a long sequence of trials. This was a significant departure from the then dominant classical view of probability, which often relied on a priori assumptions of equally likely outcomes. The Logic of Chance was a groundbreaking work that established Venn as a serious scholar in the fields of logic and probability. It went through several editions and significantly influenced the development of statistical theory. While it predates his famous Venn diagrams, it laid the groundwork for his later work by demonstrating his deep interest in the logical foundations of various disciplines. John Venn's next significant work was Symbolic Logic, published in 1881. This book is particularly important because it was in this work that he formally introduced and elaborated on what would become known as Venn diagrams. In Symbolic Logic, Venn aimed to provide a more intuitive and visual way to understand and work with the abstract concepts of Boolean algebra and propositional logic, which had been developed by George Boole. While Boole's work was groundbreaking, its symbolic and algebraic nature could be challenging for many to grasp. Venn's key contribution was the systematic use of overlapping circles and other closed curves to represent sets and the relationships between them. He meticulously explained how these diagrams could be used to illustrate propositions, showing how statements like all A are B or some A are B could be visually represented by the inclusion or intersection of circles. Analyze arguments, demonstrating how Venn diagrams could be employed to test the validity of syllogisms and other logical inferences by seeing if the conclusion was necessarily implied by the premises as depicted in the diagram. Clarify set theory, providing a clear visual representation of fundamental set operations such as union, intersection, and complement. Symbolic logic went beyond simply introducing the diagrams. Venn also explored the theoretical underpinnings of his visual method, relating it to existing logical systems and discussing its advantages in terms of clarity and ease of understanding. He also delved into the construction and interpretation of diagrams for more complex logical expressions involving multiple sets. While Venn's symbolic logic built upon the work of Boole, it was Venn's diagrammatic approach that proved to be incredibly influential and enduring. The visual simplicity and intuitive nature of Venn diagrams made abstract logical concepts accessible to a much wider audience, ensuring their continued use in education and various fields to this day. Although Venn himself considered his algebraic system presented in the book to be equally important, it is his diagrams that have had the most lasting impact. John Venn's next major work was The Principles of Empirical or Inductive Logic, published in 1889. This book represented a significant departure from his earlier focus on symbolic logic and probability, delving into the philosophical foundations of inductive reasoning and scientific methodology. In The Principles of Empirical or Inductive Logic, Venn offered a detailed critique of John Stuart Mill's influential account of induction, as laid out in Mill's system of logic. While acknowledging Mill's importance, Venn argued that Mill's system contained several flaws and ambiguities. Venn's key arguments in this work included emphasis on frequency, he reiterated his belief in the importance of frequency in understanding probability and argued that inductive inferences should be grounded in observed regularities and statistical data. This connected back to his earlier work on the logic of chance. Critique of Mill's methods. He critically analyzed Mill's methods of experimental inquiry such as the method of agreement, difference, and concomitant variations, suggesting that they were often insufficient or logically unsound as the sole basis for establishing causal relationships. Focus on the role of hypothesis. Venn stressed the importance of forming hypotheses and testing them against empirical evidence in the process of inductive reasoning. He believed that induction was not simply about observing patterns but also about actively proposing and evaluating explanations. Integration of probability and induction. He attempted to bridge the gap between probability theory and inductive logic, arguing that probabilistic reasoning played a crucial role in assessing the strength of inductive inferences. The Principles of Empirical or Inductive Logic was a substantial and scholarly work that sparked debate within the philosophical community regarding the nature of induction and scientific inference. While perhaps not as widely known by the general public as his Venn diagrams, it remains an important contribution to the philosophy of science and our understanding of how we reason from experience. Venn himself considered this work to be a significant part of his intellectual legacy. The book went through a second edition in 1907, further solidifying its place in the literature on inductive logic. While John Venn continued to publish on logic and probability, his next major work shifted his focus towards history, specifically the history of his beloved Cambridge University and his own college, Gonville and Caius. This culminated in the biographical history of Gonville and Caius College, 1349 to 1897, published in 1897. This substantial volume was the result of years of meticulous research and demonstrated Venn's deep commitment to his academic home. It went beyond a simple chronological account, offering detailed biographical notes on the members of the college from its foundation up to the time of publication. After this substantial historical work, his next major undertaking, in collaboration with his son John Archibald Venn, was the compilation of Alumni Cantabrigienses, a biographical list of all known students, graduates, and officials of the University of Cambridge, from the earliest times to 1900. This was an immense project, and the first volumes were published starting in 1922. This comprehensive work aimed to create a biographical register of everyone associated with the University of Cambridge throughout its history up to the turn of the 20th century. It involved an enormous amount of archival research and provided invaluable information for historians and genealogists. John Venn passed away on April 4, 1923, in Cambridge, England, at the age of 88. He had remained a Fellow of Gonville and Caius College at the University of Cambridge for his entire adult life, deeply embedded in the academic community he cherished. Even in his later years, he maintained an active intellectual life, contributing to the monumental Alumni Cantabrigienses project with his son. His death marked the end of a long and productive life dedicated to scholarship in logic, probability, and history. He left behind a significant intellectual legacy, most notably his widely adopted Venn diagrams, which continue to be an invaluable tool for understanding relationships between sets and concepts across numerous disciplines. His contributions to the University of Cambridge, both through his teaching and his historical research, also ensured his lasting impact on his academic home. On some of the characteristics of belief, scientific and religious 1870, this was a series of lectures he delivered as part of the Hulsayan lectureship at Cambridge in 1869. It explored the nature of belief in different domains. Caius College 1901, this book was part of the University of Cambridge College History series and focused specifically on the history and aspects of Gonville and Caius College. Annals of a Clerical Family, being some account of the family and descendants of William Venn, Vicar of Otterton, Devon, 1600 to 1621-1904. This work delves into his own family history, tracing the lineage of his ancestors. Editor of the Annals of Gonville and Caius College by John Caius, published posthumously in 1904. This involved his work in editing and bringing to publication historical records of his college written by an earlier notable figure. Editor of the Book of Matriculations and Degrees. In the University of Cambridge from 1544 to 1659-1913, this was another significant editorial undertaking, focusing on historical records of Cambridge University's students and degrees. Early collegiate life 1913, this work likely explored aspects of student life and the academic environment at Cambridge during earlier periods, drawing on his extensive historical knowledge of the university. Consistency and Real Inference 1876, this was a paper published in the philosophical journal Mind, exploring concepts within logic. How can a single introduction of our own average, and that a fictitious one, possibly take the place of the many values which were actually given to us? And the answer surely is, that it cannot possibly do so. The one thing cannot take the place of the other for purposes in general, but only for this or that specific purpose. John Venn.
Wrecks on the floor where they drop like bombs. Faceless voices running all the cons. Digital whispers in a binary night. No light, no face, pure sound, no sight. Stories unfold in the dark, unscrolled. Echoes of silence, secrets untold. Waves crash loud in this audio cave. No light, no fame, just the sound we crave. Tune in, turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just the vibe that's real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. Hidden in shadows, voices untamed. No need for spotlight, no claim to fame. Just a beat of life in a stream of thought. Every word a punchline, no need to be taught. Just listen close, no visuals needed. Raw conversation, unprocessed, unseated. Feel the pulse in every sentence said. No distractions, just thoughts in your head. Whispers of the streets, rumbling through. Faceless yet vivid, a world in view. No mic, just souls, connecting in flow. Pure and raw, let the rhythm go. Pure and raw. Silence break, raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just the vibe that's real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. Tune in, turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just the vibe that's real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. Pure and raw.
Okay.